Hello guys, Nigel back again with you. Another video today. This is now we're looking at the rear axle, but before we do that, let's have a look at the front axle, give it a leak test, and let's check the volume of these diffs and see what sort of difference they are, these diff pans. Because one of the big benefits, or another of the big benefits with the Gwyn Lewis diff pan is the fact that it does hold more oil. Now, before you start commenting below, holding more oil is not a benefit on a long run. So, you know, if you've got more oil, it just means it takes longer to heat up. But however, if you're doing short speed events like hill climbs, trials or whatever, and you are concerned about your speed trials, you're concerned about your diff oil, then having more oil in there is better, because obviously the longer you have, the more oil you have, the longer it takes to get to temperature. That's just common sense. So extra oil there is a big benefit, and of course you've got the benefit of the better flow going over the crown wheel, spinning onto the pinion bearings, which is a no-brainer. I've shown you that in a couple of videos now, so that's a no-brainer. And then you've also got the added advantage of the additional strength of these things. They're 6mm thick instead of the sort of 1.5–2mm thick standard diff pan. And if you do put one of those clamp-on diff guards on, apparently, I've never witnessed it, but apparently they can rust through. So later on in the video I'll show you the Gwyn Lewis alternative to this, which is another weld-on diff protector, which gets rid of having the clamp-on ring around the diff pan, but you still have the area at the bottom for mud to collect where it can still build up. It's a much bigger gap and you can get in there and clean it out easily, but if you don't look after your vehicle, you neglect it, sure enough it's going to rust through there eventually. So and looking at the paint that's on the axles, it's just a bloody joke, absolute joke. It's you know, the metal's not even degreased, I don't think. The paint just flakes off. It's just crazy. Anyway, without further ado, let's get to the bench and have a look at what I've been up to. Okay, so here we can see that I'm doing the leak testing. So we've got the diff pan there is full of, you can see my hand reflection, I expect. Where are we? So you can see there's liquid in there. And basically I've got it up on the bench on a couple of axle stands, and it's all squared up and leveled up. And this time I've got a funnel and a glass jar to catch the acetone, so hopefully we can do a tidier job than we did last time and not completely soak the bench. So it all looks good. Looking up underneath, I'm looking up here, I can't see any moisture anywhere, so it's looking good. So let me get it drained. There we go, bench is all clear now. So just done a capacity check, and the standard diff, this diff cover here, admittedly cut off. I should have left it on the axle and checked it, but that holds about 1.1 litres, and this diff pan holds about 2.2 litres, so it's twice as much as that one. Now obviously that doesn't equate to twice as much volume in your axle because you're only half filling it. So if you think this one holds 1.1 litres and it's half full, that's 550. If this holds 2.2 and it's half full, that's 1.1. So you've got as much oil just in there as you have in that whole diff pan. So there's another advantage with these. I'm not trying to sell them, it's just that I don't really see a downside other than the work it takes to fit them. There is no downside. They're absolutely bloody brilliant. So anyway, here we are, the rear axle. Rear axle's on its frame, as you can see there. Okay, and I've cut the diff pan off. One of the considerations we need to make with these is I'm going to come square, is the height of the oil level, the height of the fill plug. As you know, Land Rover will tell you to fill the axle until it comes out of that plug. That's not always the case. I've spoken to a few people over the years and they've told me that the new Land Rovers out of the factory weren't always filled up to the plug. Some were like sort of way down an inch below. So not really too sure what to say. But I will tell you that the Gwyn Lewis diff pan, all the plugs are at the same height. And he's had to do this because all of the Land Rover axles all vary. Now if you look at many other aftermarket diff covers, the hole is directly in the middle. They've got it directly central. Okay, so if you fill them up to the bottom of the diff plug, you're actually having your half shaft sitting in oil. So all of these axle tubes are all full of oil, and these seals have got a big job to do on the end trying to keep the oil out of the bearings. Whereas this is designed to keep the oil below the tubes. So what I've done here, I've marked up with tape, I've marked up the positions of these holes. So you can see here, this is the OD of the axle tube, is this line here. Okay, so if we say this steel is about 6mm thick, you can see about 6mm up, there's the stock. This is the bottom of the, this is the bottom edge, this bottom edge here of the oil filler. Okay, so that's where the stock one is. Now the Gwyn Lewis one is here, so it's about 5-6mm higher. Okay, so the worst thing you're going to do, if you fill up to the bottom of the fill level plug, okay, here, then you're going to have some oil in the tubes. Okay, my suggestion is, and what I'm going to do, is actually see how much oil the front diff takes, put the same oil in the back, and then when I put my finger in, I should be able to just feel the oil sort of, you know, down around about the bottom of this weld we're looking for, which is where we want the oil to fill to. So it's one of the things worth looking at. And also, if you're looking at other manufacturers, look at where their diff plug is, and then look at where it is in relation to your axle tubes, because like I say, you don't want your axle tubes full of oil when you're sat on level ground. Obviously when you're off-roading, whatever, you can't help it, but and obviously if it is an off-road vehicle, just for off-roading, it doesn't matter. But if it's an on-road vehicle, be very, very careful. This TD5 Puma axles, the level is particularly low, and also on the front axle it's particularly high. So it's because the axle's tip forward, and obviously when you tip the axle forward, you need to bring the oil level up higher. Let's get behind it, up higher, because as you tip the axle forward, the oil level at the front of the diff will rise, and at the back of the diff it will drop. So you want to keep the oil at the same level in the middle around the tubes. So there we go. So what I've got to do now is get this one welded up and then get it welded onto here. One more thing, guys, before I go any further, something I forgot to show you is this one. This is the alternative Gwyn Lewis diff pan guard, and this is just basically a weld on guard. So you weld along here, you weld along here, and you weld down here, and that's it. You don't need to take the axle off the vehicle, you don't need to even empty it with oil, you just weld it as it is. I've chosen not to go with this one, basically because I have the time, especially have the time now in this current climate, and the ability to actually fit the other type of diff pan, the actual full solid one. The other downside I see to this one is, as with most diff guards, other than the weld on ones, you've got this water and mud trap down here. And water and mud can get stuck in there, just sit there, stay wet, and it will corrode through this diff pan. That's what I worry about, because it's not very thick. It's only 1.5–2mm thick. Obviously it's a pressing, so it's thinner in certain areas. It's obviously thicker here than it is down the sides. So, you know, it's worth bearing that in mind if you go for this type, although it is much easier to fit, and if you're paying somebody else to do it, it's going to cost you a lot less. It still does the job. It's still 6mm steel. It's beautifully made, beautifully folded, but not really what I'm looking for. I'm going to go for that one. So there we go, just like before. Started the welding, going along this edge first here, and then we're going to run down these 4 sides, and then go around these 4 edges down here, where are we? Down here, and basically it'll all just pull together and sit nicely. And then we'll go around and weld the inside. There we go, guys, all welded up all the way over, and then turn it over, done the inside as well. And this time, instead of messing around and playing around with each weld, I just went on and did the whole lot, one after the other. And it's kind of, it's okay. I mean, the inside is never going to be seen, other than the guy that takes the axle apart, and the outside is going to get all ground back and polished anyway, so that it looks like that one. Okay, so next job I'll do here is grind it all back and polish it back and everything, and then we'll look at getting welding onto the axle the same as we did with the front one. So I'm not going to drag on about this too long. We'll call that a day for this video, and the next one will be all about basically welding this onto the rear axle, and where we're going to go from there. I need to get some sandblasting done as well, but unfortunately, because of this virus, everybody's at home, and of course my plan was to do this work while everyone was at work, so I could do all the grinding and the noisy stuff while everyone was at work, and then in the summer when they're all at home I'll be nice and quiet. But the trouble is, because of this, everybody's at home all day and the weather's really lovely, so everyone's sat on the patios, and it's really makes life hard, I think. I like my neighbours and I don't want to piss them off. So anyway, there we go, guys. Thanks for watching. See you all soon. Bye for now with a thumbed glove. Stay in. Where's my finger? Stay in. Stay safe. Don't go out unless you really, really have to. Bye for now.